President Trump threatening a strike on Syria in response to chemical weapons attack.
I believe a coalition airstrike would be a great response to this Assad atrocity.
Jeff Sessions made it very clear there are changes in the immigration system.
Zero tolerance, and zero releases, and 100% prosecution.
This year will be my last one as a member of the House, leaving this majority in good hands with what I believe is a very bright future.
Resistance to sanctuary cities growing in California.
The city is trying to tell Sacramento that we are not very happy about the law. We're trying to deal with illegal alien criminals.
How strange is it for you to sit here and compare the president to a mob boss?
James Comey is a dirty cop.
A lot of these college students who are graduating, about to enter the workforce, they're used to the safe spaces on campus.
There aren't any safe spaces in a manufacturing plant or wherever it is that you work. You're going to have to toughen up. Remember, in a world of snowflakes, be the heat.
Can't believe it's Thursday already, and it's beginning to feel like spring in the Northeast. And a lot of people are saying this is a perfect time to buy concert tickets, and they might be thinking to themselves, I'm going to buy tickets depending on the music chosen on Fox and Friends in the morning. And if so, we're selling a lot of Florida Georgia Line.
Yeah, Brian made them famous.
Right. No, I didn't make them famous, but I certainly...
I've heard you say that, though.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I deserve a lot of credit.
Times.
I deserve
That's
a lot
why we
of
play
credit.
the music, to remind everyone that you're the reason they're famous.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us on this very busy Thursday. And we start this hour with a Fox News alert. The United States military could strike Syria at any moment.
Bashar al-Assad moving military planes, waiting for President Trump's promised response to a deadly chemical attack.
All right, Kevin Corke is live at the White House with more. Hey, Kevin, I guess the clock's ticking?
Yeah, clock is ticking. Now, when the coalition might strike the regime is still anybody's guess, guys. But keep this in mind. The president famously criticized former President Obama for sort of telegraphing U.S. military strategy. Well, he is certainly not doing that himself, taking to Twitter to say the following, and I think you'll find this pretty instructive. The president writing this, never said when. Okay, keep that word in mind. Never said when an attack on Syria would take place. Could be very soon or not at all. In any event, the United States under my administration has done a great job of ridding the region of ISIS. Where's our thank you, America? Of course, it was last April that the U.S. hammered the Assad regime with dozens of Tomahawk missiles in response to the regime's treatment of the Syrian people. Just devastating once again to watch how the Assad regime has treated the people of that country. Now, this time it was the use of chemicals on the Syrian people, again allegedly by the regime with the protection of the Kremlin. Well, White House officials say it's created an environment, frankly, where blame, well, placing it isn't too tough to do.
Russia has proven themselves to be responsible in part for this. They guaranteed that the use of chemical weapons by Syria would not happen again. They failed at that, so they certainly hold some responsibility in this and certainly have proven themselves to be bad actors in this process.
We're not going to strike any Russian aspects. You know, we're going to look at those Syrian pieces. You know, we are in talks continuously with the Russians. You know, we're not going to do that. I don't believe the Russians are going to shoot an American airplane out of the sky.
Keep this in mind, guys. The UN Security Council will hold a closed-door meeting on the situation, the escalating tensions there in Syria. That happens later today. And, of course, the president will be in the Rose Garden talking tax reform. If he says anything on Twitter or in person, we'll let you know. But for now, back to you.
Well, I think he's going to do both. I think he's going to go out to talk tax reform, talk about everything else. And he's already tweeted this morning. The latest one was, good luck to Mike Pompeo during his confirmation hearing today. It would be great to have a Secretary of State, wouldn't it?
Well, it's about time, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. It is. All right. Thank you very much, Kevin Corke. The problem for Mike Pompeo is Rand Paul, because he's made it very clear.
Is there one Democrat that would be able to make up for that lack of vote?
No. It doesn't look like it right now. Right now, regarding the strike on Syria, it sounds like the Pentagon is still working on targets. The White House wants an expansive strike, but the Pentagon is concerned, as Kevin detailed, by the threats made by Russia. The consensus is, at this point, rather than a couple-of-day campaign, it looks like it would be one day, one big strike, several targets. What those are? don't know.
All right.
It's got to be all 6 military bases. It's got to hit where they manufacture all these gases, and it's got to be much more substantial. More than a year ago, because the 59 Tomahawks got us 8 more gas attacks. The world is watching. North Korea is watching. Iran is watching. How serious should we be taken in the region?
We'll continue to keep you posted. All right, so Jeff Sessions, who's the Attorney General, he was down close to the border speaking to the Border Sheriffs Coalition in Texas and the Southwest Border Sheriffs Coalition, and he had a message for them. He said, there's a new sheriff in town talking about our president. He says that he wants to achieve zero tolerance, zero releases, and 100% prosecution. Listen.
With President Trump, we have a new era of support for law enforcement like we haven't seen in many years. You might even say we've got a new sheriff in town. We are working to take criminals off the streets by restoring the rule of law and really protecting and fixing our immigration system. So we're going to step up our efforts to achieve zero tolerance and zero releases and 100% prosecution.
Mr. Sessions, the Attorney General, also slammed the U.S. Congress. He said, look, you guys blew it when it came to passing some sort of comprehensive immigration reform. And because there is no new law, they've got to do what they can do via the administration and different rules. And, with the president himself ordering up to 4,000 members of the National Guard on our southern border. We'd already heard Texas wanted to send troops. Arizona wanted to send troops. New Mexico wanted to send troops. And now California Governor Jerry Brown is going to send 400, but they're not going to do what the president wants them to do.
That's right. That's right. He says that they won't be used for enforcing federal immigration law.
Then what's the point?
Right. Well, the president tweeted about it. He said California Governor Jerry Brown is doing the right thing in sending the National Guard to the border. Thank you, Jerry. Good move for the safety of our country.
All right. So Jerry's statement reads like this. Let's be crystal clear on the scope of this mission. This will not be a mission to build a new wall. It will not be a mission to round up women and children or detain people escaping violence and seeking a better life, which means anybody who wants to come here can come up here, and Jerry Brown would let them stay at his house. So, I mean, where he comes off as a governor saying anyone can come into this country simply because you run a state, that means laws don't matter. Not saying that everybody doesn't have a great story from Switzerland to Greenland, but if you're just because just because you come through the southern border, you're allowed in. That means we just don't need an immigration system.
You know what's interesting, though, in Southern California now, all these municipalities in Orange County are saying they're no longer going to be sanctuary cities, and they're challenging the state, which is interesting. If you come up from Mexico into, toward Los Angeles, you got to go through those counties. So the ICE guys are working with local officials in Orange County. 3
more this week have said we're not going to comply with that, and we're going to sue. We're going to join that lawsuit the DOJ has.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind, too, is the wall has, is no doubt about it, it has been effective in San Diego. The governor knows that. Everyone knows that. Democrats and Republicans know that in the area. So for him to say the walls don't work and can't be reinforced and built up all the way across is just flat out being disingenuous. Meanwhile, 8 minutes after the hour, on Sunday on 2020, James Comey, his long-awaited book, will be out. He's giving his first interview to George Stephanopoulos. Evidently, it goes over an hour. They don't know how they're going to knock it down to an hour. They found the whole thing is fascinating. They say it's going to be devastating to the Trump team.
How strange is it for you to sit here and compare the president to a mob boss? Things that you know but haven't said that could damage President Trump.
James Comey.
And to those who say you should have brought Hillary Clinton before a grand jury, should Donald Trump be impeached?
That is a great promo. You want to hear the answers to all those questions. What's interesting, though, is keep in mind, because James Comey knows a lot of secret stuff, how much he will actually reveal, because he could be in legal jeopardy if he reveals too much.
That's why on Monday we should have a whole bunch of legal minds here to analyze what this interview has and what is in that book, because we'll all probably get it at the same time. And there's a lot of people who think that the Inspector General's report is waiting for this book to drop before they complete it.
The book drops on Tuesday. I think a lot of people will be watching that interview, whether or not they like him or whether or not they trust him. People are fascinated and they want to hear what he's going to say.
Meanwhile, we asked you what you thought. Mary emailed us, Comey will bash and demean the president, and that's sad. This is not something that needs to be in the limelight, she writes.
Bob says this: I will not watch the interview or buy Comey's book. Already know what he is. Would love to see more from the FBI and DOJ.
We'll definitely, if you don't want to watch it or you can't watch it Sunday night, we'll be playing clips and we will be analyzing it on Monday morning.
And then I think Brett Baers will be the best overall because he'll have a chance to ask Comey about things that just are not right with the people he used to work with, that he contradicts.
I think the big thing right now is you want to hear James Comey explain why the president is like a mob boss, because all we've heard is the tease, and it's a very effective tease. And if you want to find out, you got to watch 2020 or watch our program, which will be the 2020 postgame show Monday morning.
All right, if you want some more news, Jillian has the headlines for us. Hey, Jillian.
The postgame show is always fun, isn't it?
It always is fun.
Especially if your team wins. Good morning to you guys. Let's get you caught up on some of your headlines. The years of soft policy on Russia are over. That's what Secretary of State nominee Mike Pompeo is expected to tell the Senate during his confirmation hearing today. He'll also emphasize that while challenging, diplomatic efforts with Moscow must continue. The CIA director takes over for Rex Tillerson. President Trump tweeting his support, writing, quote, "Good luck to Mike Pompeo confirmation hearing today. He will be a great Secretary of State." The documents that kickstarted the Trump-Russia probe now in the hands of Congress. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein handing the two-page memo over to House Intelligence Committee Chair Devin Nunes and House Oversight Committee Chair Trey Gowdy. Earlier, Judge Andrew Napolitano weighed in on what could happen next.
The House of Representatives should subpoena a person, Chris Wray, Jeff Sessions, whoever has control over the whole thing. And if that person doesn't produce the documents, that person should be held in contempt.
The Justice Department giving in after Nunes threatened to have Rosenstein and FBI Director Christopher Wray impeached. And also, this guy's busted lip is thanks to a quick-thinking dad who decked him in the face for allegedly trying to kidnap his daughter. Yanel Hernandez Velasco is accused of grabbing the 3-year-old's hand at a Sacramento park, the girl's father going after him when he tried dragging her away.
He just looked at me and he's like, it's like, wow, it's like, no big thing, huh, bud? It's like, you just tried to kidnap my daughter.
Velasco is behind bars and charged with kidnapping. 2 baseball games turn into base brawls with benches clearing and punches thrown.
And there it is. And Austin does not like it. Now he's going to head toward the mound. Now this is a brawl.
Yankees and Red Sox coming to blows when Yankees' Tyler Austin is hit with a pitch and charges the mound. But that's not the only game where this happened. Punches also thrown at the Rockies-Padres game after a wild pitch. 5 players were ejected there. And they're 2 good examples of how the post-game show can be a ton of fun because you've got a lot to analyze there.
It doesn't look as if when the pitcher threw his mitt at the guy, it really slowed him down.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt.
All right.
Thanks, Jillian.
Meanwhile, 13 minutes after the hour, Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, retiring. So does Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy want the job? We're going to ask him and that and so much more.
Plus, the special story behind this incredible performance of our national anthem.
Speaker Paul Ryan revealing that he's ready to leave Congress and will not run for re-election in November, but stay around until January. Reports now claiming he's likely a replacement. Our next guest, House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy. He joins us now to weigh in. Him and the president, I know, have a great relationship, as does Leader McCarthy. You have a great relationship with the Speaker. He makes that announcement yesterday. What surprised me is he says, I'm going to stay Speaker until after the election. Is that in the best interest of the party?
Well, he wants to stay and continue to run through the tape. We still have a lot of more work to get done, from welfare to work, making sure people are getting into the workforce. We're going to be rolling out today within the Farm Bill showing that. We've got to finish the president's agenda when it comes to the wall, when it comes to opioid, when it comes to infrastructure. Those are a lot of things we were talking about last night. I was as shocked as you. I mean, Paul has accomplished a great deal. He's served here a long time. I have great respect for him. Remember, his father died when he was 16. Right. And his children are at the age, and I have respect for the man that cares about his family all the way. And We did tax reform, the number one reason why he ran for Congress. It took us more than 30 years. You look at the reg reform that we've been able to repeal back. Only one time in history has a Congressional Review Act ever become law, but under President Trump, we did 16. And then just yesterday, I was in the Oval Office with the president. We have worked for 10 years trying to fight the human trafficking. And there's more than 100,000 children that are trafficked. 70% of that is online. And President Trump was able to stop that yesterday. We closed Backpage, and look at what happened on Craigslist. This is amazing, some of these accomplishments.
I saw the picture on Twitter, and I also know that you had dinner last night. The speaker said you were doing that. So when you were with the president, could you characterize the substance that took place there? I mean, obviously, read the tweets. He's been outraged that they raided his lawyers' offices, outraged by the Mueller and Rosenstein role. But when you talk to him, you've known him well. What was he like?
You know what? I see him in all these different natures. This man focuses just on the work. Now, the group that we had there last night was the Senate leadership and the House leadership. This is the same leadership that went with him to Camp David. We talked through every challenge that we have, from international to where we're going to do on cutting spending here, to looking through for the appointments going forward and the legislation moving forward. You wouldn't know this man has anything else going on in his life than getting his agenda through and the wall.
Kevin, you're a man of goals. You've won the lottery in your life. You've been a successful businessman. You go to Congress. You're in leadership. How much would being the next speaker mean to you?
You know what? What means most to me is that in the next Congress, there is an opportunity for a Republican to be Speaker and not Nancy Pelosi. We have the highest number of retirements we've ever had. We have the history against us when it comes to the party in power that wins the White House and losing seats here. But we've accomplished a lot, and we've got a lot more to do in the Trump agenda. So I'm doubling down and focusing, putting this conference together as one team and making sure we keep this majority and moving America in the right direction.
All right. So the dinner last night, the president seemed carefree, but he has a lot on his plate. And an agenda to finish, and Kevin McCarthy might just be the next speaker to replace his buddy Paul Ryan. We'll see. Leader McCarthy, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, straight ahead. If someone wants welfare, should they have to get a job? What about take a drug test? The president pushing stricter guidelines, and we're debating it next.
Here's some quick headlines for you. President Trump meeting with lawmakers today over how to protect farmers from increasing trade tensions with China. Beijing is threatening to place several tariffs on agricultural products like soybeans. President Trump is reportedly considering a Depression-era program to bail out farmers. And a brand new memorial opens today, shedding light on the nation's opioid epidemic. President Trump partnering with the National Safety Council to create the prescribed death monument. The week-long exhibit features 22,000 pills engraved with the faces of everyone who died in 2015 from opioid-related overdoses. Steve?
Thank you, Ainsley. President Trump signing an executive order that aims to strengthen work requirements for those who get welfare. It's all in an effort to reduce dependency on public assistance programs and get people back to work. But not everybody is happy about it. Here with a conversation this morning, we've got Republican strategist Kimberly Klacik and Democratic strategist Susan Johnson Cook. Good morning to both of you. Susan, let's start with you. You don't think this is something that we should be doing?
No, the reality is what he signed is not just to reduce, but it's actually to eliminate. It's attacking poverty and the immigrants. And so the not so fine print is that he's asked every agency to report those who are not documented. So you're literally taking food out of the hands of children because they're out of the mouths of children. Their parents may not be documented, but they are citizens. And so if you totally eliminate that household, you know what happens to the children. So people who are poor and people who are dependent on assistance are not there because they want to be there. Everybody would want to have the American dream, but that's not the reality right now.
Sure. And Kimberly, I'm sure you would agree, if people are down on their luck and have nothing to eat, they should certainly get assistance. But you like the idea that there are finally some standards on who would qualify.
Yes. Bill Clinton once said welfare should be a second chance, not a way of life. Right now, we're seeing record low unemployment numbers with record high welfare dependency numbers. President Trump recognizes that we have to change policy to reflect with the times. We're out of the recession. President Obama put waivers in place that has able-bodied Americans able to sit home and not go to work.
Sure.
In the 90s, the welfare program to work was successful. 60% of unwed mothers went to work, and child poverty declined to its lowest levels ever.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad she mentioned Clinton because it was welfare reform in '96. He signed the Reconciliation Act, and so was welfare reform. But what we're talking about here is agencies have to report actually immigrants who are receiving aid. And what it is a subversive way of eliminating immigrants. So the wall is keeping people out, and this is a way to get people out.
What about the suggestion that would allow some states to require mandatory drug testing for some food stamp recipients, Kimberly?
I don't think that's a bad idea. I think also asking people to work, train, or volunteer for 20 hours a week is also not a bad idea. I wouldn't be running for office or sitting in this chair today if I didn't volunteer on Capitol Hill and find an occupation that I love to do. This is not punishment in any way.
Susan will give you the final word.
This is not a reality show. This is reality. And there are human beings who are not in their situations because they want to be. You have to have so many socioeconomic factors. And I think we have to look at the total picture, not eliminate people, but how to build them up.
Yeah, but if somebody can't pass a drug test, for whatever reason, I'm sure there would be another standard other than, okay, they failed a drug test. You don't think that they should get government money if they have a drug problem?
That's not necessarily
because that
what
could
the
fuel the
executive
drug
order is.
problem.
That's not necessarily what the executive order is signing. What was signed was that agency executives must report those who are illegally receiving monies, and so undocumented immigrants are part of that. Part of that population. Okay. So a household that's not equally yoked loses all their benefits, and that's not right.
Regardless, the welfare system is flawed. Right now, we measure success on how many people successfully sign up as a dependent, rather how many people go from poverty to financial independence.
Right.
So whatever way you look at it, it's flawed and it needs to change.
Well, something's
and I think the
happen.
executive order is flawed, so we have to look at that as well.
And you have different points of view, and that's why we brought you on together. Susan and Kimberly, we thank you very much. Meanwhile, coming up on this Thursday, a new way to silence conservatives on campus. Call the conservatives on campus hate groups. Maybe that'll work. Plus, another Democrat is joining the chorus calling worker bonuses crumbs.
We're getting crumbs, and unfortunately, and by the way, those people who might have gotten $1,000 as a bonus, remember that is not free money. It's coming with the cost of driving up our debt.
Really, Cory Booker, the host of Making Money with Charles Payne, has something to say about that. His reaction? He thinks it's funny. He's next.
He's worried about debt.
On the mezzanine level, it's Fox and Friends. We got about another half an hour. Join us right now, the host of Making Money, Charles Payne, the king of Payne. Charles, what do you make of Cory Booker, who is the senator from the state we both live in, sounding a lot like Nancy Pelosi? Listen to this.
We're getting crumbs, and unfortunately, and by the way, those people who might have gotten $1,000 as a bonus, remember that is not free money. It's coming with the cost of driving up our debt.
Right, it's your money, you made it, and he's making you feel guilty for having it.
Yeah, and of course, for Cory Booker to bring up debt after the last administration, only layered on about $10 trillion to the debt pile is the whole thing is disingenuous, to be quite honest with you, and it's very disappointing coming from Cory Booker. Cory Booker, when he came on the scene, he was championed as a pragmatic thinker. When he ran for mayor for the first time, Jack Kemp backed him up. A Republican, in part because he said he supported free enterprise zones. Guess what's in the tax bill? Enterprise zones.
Of course.
Yeah. And what we've seen so far, 4 million workers getting these bonuses. We've seen companies talking about doing things. Let's talk about, for instance, J.P. Morgan. They're going to open up 400 new branches. Each branch has to be constructed. Each branch will have jobs. It is so hard right now to even quantify how much impact this has had, because it's going to continue for a very long time. In addition to, of course, people keeping more of the money that, to your point, they've earned.
80% of households we're benefiting or are benefiting because of tax reform.
Right.
Most people are using those bonuses to pay off their debt. You have Cory Booker saying it's causing more debt. Who's right?
No, first of all, what's hurt the debt pile here recently was that $1.3 trillion omnibus spending, which was a disaster in my mind. Disaster. But I think the idea that somehow anybody keeping more of what they earned being a bad thing is not a bad thing. And let's go back to the previous administration. President Obama extended payroll tax cuts. And then the White House put on their site $40 that they said would end up being $40 a week. And they did stories from every single state. Every single state, they went there and they found people who $40 a week made a major difference to their life. Now, from being a significant life-changing event to being crumbs is so disappointing.
But, you know, there's going to be a political calculation, though, Charles, because he's obviously been rumored to be running for President of the United States. So if he's going to mention crumbs, it's on purpose.
And it looks like he's looking down at the paper.
He
He's reading the talking
points. I mean, he got his talking points. Listen, there's two. The Democrats are going in different directions, right? You've got the Nancy Pelosi wing, and you've got the Bernie Sanders wing. And to call it crumbs, I think, was a major mistake. But that's not about economics. That's about politics of vanity. What they're ultimately going to say is, you might have gotten something, but someone else got more, which is so unfortunate.
And they said they found themselves on the defensive of the administration of that CBO report that talked about what it's going to do to the debt, but they looked at that growth of being at 2%, and we plan on...
Well, the growth is going to be higher. Growth from this will last for many years. And again, there's so many ways to measure this that go way beyond the bonuses. When you get a new bank built in your neighborhood and then they hire 10 or 20 people to work there, that's because of these tax cuts.
That's a win. All right, Charles, we're going to be watching you over on the Business Network.
Talk about a woman with a lot of money who can build her own bank with her own hands.
You know, I have so much of it, I can't even count it.
Right.
And you still come to work.
I still come to work because I love my job. Good morning to you. The Associated Press now reporting the National Enquirer paid $30,000 to an ex-doorman in one of President Trump's buildings, all over a rumor. The payment to keep quiet about an unproven story that then candidate Trump fathered a child with an employee there. The woman involved says it's all fake. Trump lawyer Michael Cohen calls it a baseless rumor. Sex and the City actress and gubernatorial hopeful Cynthia Nixon wants to legalize pot to promote social justice.
There are a lot of good reasons for legalizing marijuana, but for me it comes down to this. We have to stop putting people of color in jail for something that white people do with impunity.
Nixon claims 80% of New Yorkers arrested for marijuana are black or Latino, even though white people use marijuana at roughly the same rates. She wants to tax pot sales to generate revenue for the state. In Pennsylvania, students pushing to defund what they call conservative hate groups. Student demonstrators, including those from Penn State, don't want any money going to Turning Point USA and the Bull Moose Party. Daily Wire editor Ben Shapiro saying silencing campus conservative speech is a growing issue.
I can only imagine that anti-immigrant rhetoric would be things like, let's enforce our border or let's deport some illegal immigrants. There's a big part of the left, and it's growing, that says that it is incumbent to protect the campus from ideas that are dissenting, and everyone who dissents must be thrown off.
Penn State tells campus reform it doesn't even fund either group in question. A student rocks the house at a school pep rally with an electrifying rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner. Take a look. Oh, the crowd going wild, and rightfully so, for Ridge Brown at his high school in Arizona. The student has autism and had never performed before. How about that?
Isn't
that incredible?
Awesome. Inspiring.
I know.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up.
Facebook face-off, round 2. Lawmakers turning up the heat on Mark Zuckerberg over privacy concerns.
Are you willing to change your business model in the interest of protecting individual privacy?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure what that means.
Really? That was an excellent question.
Why am I here?
Fox News legal analyst Bob Massey joins us now with how to protect your digital footprint.
Plus, he was ambushed in Afghanistan and has returned to serve our nation. Now our friends at Folds of Honor, founder Major Dan Rooney, is honoring his family. That's his wife, Michelle. Hear their story coming up.
I will gladly take those steps.
Headlines now. I hope you're dressed. A police chase comes to a screeching halt when a suspect speeds through an intersection and crashes into a fence. Look at that. The incredible scene caught on surveillance camera there. That's why we're able to show it to you over in Minnesota. The police say he then got out of the car, dropped the stolen gun, and tried to get away. The suspect is accused of assault and was eventually caught blocks away. Wow. And it didn't take long for authorities to catch up to this noticeable fugitive with the word dork tattooed on his neck. Sean Weatherhead is accused of calling the FBI 1,000 times, threatening to kill people. He was taken into custody after a traffic stop in California. Nobody thinks he should remove that tattoo. Ainsley?
Hey, Brian. Okay, thank you. Mark Zuckerberg facing another fierce round of questioning on Capitol Hill, this time by a congressman who grills him, the Facebook founder, over user privacy and whether or not the government needs to step in. Listen.
The internet is growing in importance around the world in people's lives, and I think that it is inevitable that there will need to be some regulation. So my position is not that there should be no regulation, but I also think that you have to be careful about what regulation you put in place.
Well, this, as we learn, even he had his information compromised. So if Zuckerberg can't protect himself, how can we protect ourselves? And what can Facebook legally do with your personal information? Let's ask our Fox News legal analyst, Bob Massey. He's also the host of Property Man. Hey, Bob, great to see you.
Good to see you, Ainsley. Thank you.
So I think our priority when we're on Facebook, we not only want to see other people's pictures and communicate with friends and see what they're doing, we also want our personal information. We want to make sure it's private. So what can Facebook legally do with our information?
You know, what's interesting, and I saw Jerry Willis in your last hour, and in researching this, that there's really no domestic law per se that regulates this. But the Federal Trade Commission has regulations about unfair trade practices, the fact that there should be consent before any information is given. The question is the enforcement of it and the supervision of it. The thing that I find, if I could say, hypocritical, is we've had so many stories that Fox and Friends have covered over the last couple of years about identity theft, and it takes this Cambridge issue for them to even do it, and they use Facebook to promote themselves. So I'm not really sure how far this is going to go, but, you know, it was sort of interesting to see the dynamics.
I know you have some tips on how we can protect ourselves. The first one, you said check Facebook privacy settings.
Check your settings to make sure that everything's set up the right way. Also, we could go through a couple more. You know, don't give out your phone number so easily. I mean, you give it out like the problem is, Ainsley, we come from the perspective of trust. We don't realize this is a world when we give this information, it's all over the place. Also, there's another issue that when we go onto other sites, a lot of us use our Facebook password to get in there. Now it's sort of like cross information. You want to be careful with that. And you also want to make sure there's a lot of these social media games that are out there. They're scams, and they get our information. So just be careful on the information you give, particularly in the light that you have Mark Zuckerberg, whose information was stolen, who's the brainchild behind all of this Facebook issue.
You went through all of those that we had up on the screen, except for download your pictures from Facebook. What do you mean by that?
Yes. Download your Facebook pictures. In other words, keep them private for yourself. Get as much information for yourself as you can just to protect for future things. It's remarkable to me, as wonderful as Facebook could be, how vulnerable you become and how trusting we are as a consumer to get that information out there. Download your pictures to yourself.
All right. For final thoughts, what's your Massey memo?
There is no such thing as privacy anymore, Ainsley. I think we have to recognize that as much as we want to think that we're protected, we're vulnerable. So you have to sort of police yourself. And I wouldn't necessarily wait for Congress to come up with regulations, because I'm not sure they're really going to do something that's going to protect what we have. That's for sure.
That's good advice. Thanks so much, Bob. You can watch Bob Friday nights, 8:30 on Fox Business Network for The Property Man. Thank you so much. Great to see you.
Thank you, Ainsley.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, he was ambushed in Afghanistan and has returned to serve our country. Now our friends at Folds of Honor are honoring his family while he serves overseas. Major Dan Rooney with his story, and there's his wife. We're going to tell you their story, too. They've been in love since high school.
Paul Ryan will not seek re-election. What does this mean for the future of his party? House Majority Whip Steve Scalise joins us. We'll ask him. Plus, California Governor Jerry Brown agrees to send 400 troops to the border, but with a big caveat. What he's not promising that's making headlines. And the president's pick to run the State Department, Mike Pompeo, faces senators at his confirmation hearing just a few minutes from now. That's set to begin a little bit over an hour from now, I should say. Join Bill and me for another busy morning this Thursday morning on America's Newsroom.
Meanwhile, some quick headlines on this Thursday morning. Sipping on straws could be a thing of the past in St. Petersburg, Florida. The city there kicking off a campaign to stop the use of plastic straws. That's who knows. This week, City Council will decide whether or not it will be enforced. Malibu, Seattle, and Miami Beach are among just several cities in the United States banning the use of plastic
Bring
straws.
your own sippy cup if you go there.
And dismantle whiteness and misogyny on campus. That message written on a new mural at the University of Southern California. A group of feminist artists working with students on the project. They say it is meant to spark conversations about racism, sexism, and xenophobia. And that is some of the news, but
Folds of Honor. Folds of Honor, you know this organization. They have made it their mission to make sure families of fallen and wounded heroes are never left behind. The Trahans are one of those families.
In April 2003, Captain Scott Trahan was ambushed in Afghanistan by the Taliban. He suffered multiple injuries, including gunshot wounds to his legs. After numerous surgeries and months of rehab, this hero returned to active duty, completing several other tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan.
Join us now live, Folds of Honor founder, friend of the show, Major Dan Rooney, and Captain Trahan's wife, Michelle, as well. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
So your husband is back?
He is back. He's currently deployed, and just a small correction, he's no longer a captain, he's a colonel.
Oh, but he was injured, and then that just tells you how strong and what a hero this guy is. Your husband went back to serve again.
Absolutely. So about 6 months after his injury, he was then redeployed to Iraq, and then, of course, multiple times after that. But yeah, so it's really been a wonderful experience for our family. We've really grown, and you know we are thank Folds of Honors for what they've done for our two children that were recipients.
That's right. And Dan, what did you do to the Trahan for the Trahan?
I mean, I think when you look at Colonel Scott's story, it's about resilience, and the common denominator we all share is everybody struggles, right? But it's about what happens to you and the fortitude to get back up, get back in the fight, and that's where Folds of Honor gets to come in and support. This year, we'll award over 5,000 scholarships to families just like the Trahans who've had somebody killed or disabled to help them get back in the fight. And her two sons, Sean and CJ, Sean's Penn grad, their oldest son, graduated from West Point and is stationed
2014.
in Hawaii. And it's just a privilege and an honor to stand by these incredible families and give them the strength to get back in the fight.
Would it have been possible without Folds of Honor for them to go?
Like so many families nowadays, you know, higher education just is a struggle.
The bridge too far.
It is I think that is a great way to put it. It is a bridge too far. And, you know, without the help of organizations like Folds of Honor, you know, I'm not sure Sean could have gone to UPenn, and our youngest is going to Old Dominion. So it definitely was a great organization, and I just truly love the mission that they're doing and helping some of our veterans.
I look at you. I love your outfit. You're wearing red pants, red shoes. You have your American flag. You have.
It's camo.
It's camo. It's the back that's really the best, though.
What does the back say?
Oh, sorry. I guess I should never.
Freedom isn't free. Folds of Honor, and it's not. But you're so proud of your three sons and your husband, a military family. What does it mean? What is fighting for America? What does America mean to you in the flag?
Well, I think it just means. It might sound corny, but it means freedom. Freedom to do what you choose to do, however you want to give back and live your life. And, you know, honoring their sacrifice by educating their legacy truly is one of the reasons that Folds of Honor, I think, is so successful, because education really is the backbone on how you're going to achieve anything in this world.
So you play, Major Dan, you got to get donations to keep this thing going. All the money goes to causes like this. And corporations have stepped up too. Budweiser gave you 1.9.
Yeah, we actually have a big
We
cardboard
do.
check.
That was one way to do it. All right, Brian, way to go.
Where are we going to cash this?
I got a big check.
Oh, I did not know that.
And Budweiser, this is a beautiful story. You know, I went up and I cold called Budweiser in St. Louis 7 years ago, and they joined the Folds of Honor mission, have donated north of $15 million since we started, which is 3,000 scholarships. And to your point, the need is great. We'll have a record year, put out nearly $20 million in scholarships this year, but there'll be between 7 and 8 million in unfunded qualified requests. And that's why Fox and Friends, This Nation has been so powerful to pick up the phone, to go to foldsofhonor.org and make a donation.
And this particular check from Budweiser, and I'm sure a portion of that is from their America beer, which
it is, yes.
It is You've been the benefactor of that. This particular check will benefit 393 scholarships. 393 scholarships thanks to the kindness of Budweiser, going to families like yours.
Yep,
Exactly.
literally that
Changing
money
lives.
will be deployed to send Sean and CJ to school next year, and another 391 families.
There are people watching right now who would like to help. They can go to
foldsofhonor.org. Freedom isn't free. Less than 1/2% of this country suit up every day to defend our freedoms.
And by the way, your shirt sales are also going to go up too. Everybody wants that.
That's right. That's right.
Michelle, thank you very
Michelle
much.
and her husband Scott have been in love since high school, and
Absolutely.
now he's fighting for our country.
Thank you very
so
much.
much.
Thank you.
America. Fox and Friends in just a moment.
Coming true, girl, here with you on 2 lanes of freedom.